Hello, first of all, we're going to talk about the experiments that me and my class did last month during it. So, these two experiments were based on seeing living things, things that live but we cannot see them. So, the first experiment was based in taking an onion, and out of the onion we take the tissue. Why did we get the tissue? Well, because when we get the tissue, we could see onion cells. So when we take the tissue, we put the tissue into alcohol for some seconds, minutes, and after putting it on alcohol, we put it one of the tissue on azul de metileno, and the other we put it in Lugol. Why did we put this tissue on these things? Well, because if we wanted to see the cells inside them and the living things inside them, we had to tint to give it color for us to see it better. When we actually put the tissue that had azul de metileno on the microscope, it was interesting because first I thought that the cells were going to move, but they didn't move. I thought that the living things were going to move, but no, they don't move. And I saw that this type of onion, well, all onions, had an interesting thing, that is that inside, well, when we see them, they have like a building construction on it that they represent the part of the cell that is named the. So this thing that I saw, that how I said, had the form of a building, is named the cell wall, and I didn't expect it to found it, and it was amazing because it's like in 3D. This was something good of it. Then after doing this experiment, we were trying to take a saliva from us, for seeing it also in the microscope, but well, we didn't have too much time, so when we put it in the microscope we see some bubbles, some cells, but we couldn't see them well because of the time. After making this experiment, the next week we go again to do an experiment. So what we did was taking a week before water and soil for us to find life on it, but it was difficult because in my group I take the water of the cañada of my neighborhood, and when we were sowing it we couldn't sow much because the water was dark, and so we find a solution is that the teacher gave us some rainwater that he had, and we could see some microorganisms like bacteria, and it was amazing because we saw a living things that we didn't knew that they exist, by because we couldn't see with our human eyes. So we saw things that we don't normally saw in the microscope. A part of bacteria we saw parasites, and it was amazing. Um, the, the conclusions are that, well, I like too much these experiments because we saw things that we don't know that they exist, just for the fact that we don't see them daily with our eyes. Actually, it was the purpose of the experiment. So things that exist, that live, but we don't see with our human eyes. By seeing that we are not only the living things that exist in the world, there are also microorganisms that they live, but they are so little. Another conclusion that was about the second experiment, that was the explanation that why we didn't saw much life or not life in the water that I took, the water of my neighborhood. Well, our teacher explained us that it was probably contaminated, so the living things that we saw were dead already. So this was another conclusion that we took. The nucleus has a characteristic, that is that this define it like eukaryotic, and it has all the DNA inside, no like the prokaryotic that have the DNA over all parts. The nucleolo is in charge to pass the DNA message in RNA. The onions use asexual reproduction. The cells is reproducing by using the process of mitosis.